Everything looking okay? Okay. All right, I want to thank everybody for joining me for the live training this morning. Well, seems like everyone, we have a technical difficulty. Hopefully, we're getting close to having all those worked out. I'm going to go down here and put the chain on this gate just so one of the cows don't try to come through. I got a Lily Rose here. As you see, she is pretty 9 enthused. Very non-enthused, which is Lily Rose. Go down here and we'll get on. And I want to thank everybody for joining me. What I want to talk about today is pressure, but not just physical pressure. I want to talk about mental pressure. There's a lot of basically sacking out, de-spooking that recently has gotten really extreme. And as with every extreme, there's always a drawback. There's always a negative. And I want to talk about that negative. As long as you're aware of it and be cognizant of it, you can work through it. Stretch your legs out, and I'll step up there. We showed her at Stock Horse Show a couple of weeks ago. Did really good. I think she placed third out of, I don't remember, 10 or 12, something like that. Really nice. This is the horse that I did the video on about getting her bridled up. She don't carry her body very good. And we've been working on building muscle. And it all kind of ties together. Mental more pressure and physical more pressure. So as you're trotting your horse around, loping your horse around, whatever, physical, you're putting physical pressure on that horse. If you go to sack that horse out with a flag or the whip or whatever, to get it kind of de-spooked, you're putting mental pressure on that horse. There's our photo bombing cat right there. You're putting mental pressure on the horse when you're doing those kind of de-spooking, desensitizing things. And what happens if you do too much of that out of order, you're going to create some problems. And I've seen a lot of kind of those problems lately. And in a lot of my recent videos, I've been saying more pressure. We're putting more pressure on the horse, more mental pressure. That's not always the answer. And I don't want you to get in your horse and putting more mental pressure and the horse blowing up with you. I was emailing somebody a while back who had started a Mustang and had, I believe, 3 rides on it. First 2 rides went really good. Third ride, she broke in 2. And after talking through everything with him, it seemed to me that as he was training, he did more de-spooking and less mental pressure to get the horse really locked on him. So as I'm just walking her around, I'm getting her bridle up, lifting her back, using my spurs, and just getting her warmed up, really. When you do a lot of de-spooking with your horse, you're basically telling that horse, this is okay. This scary object is not going to hurt you. Are we okay? Everything all right? Okay. Okay, yeah, her name is Lily Rose. So basically, when you're de-spooking, you are telling your horse, this is okay. This is not scary. This is not going to hurt you. This is okay. Stand still. And what happens if you do a lot of de-spooking before you get really a horse started, let's say, started under saddle? What's going to happen is You're going to put the pad on, you de-spook it, you're going to put the saddle on, it's okay with the saddle. And if you keep doing a lot of that, you're going to teach the horse that that's all okay, which is what you want. But if you don't keep continuing to challenge the horse, what's going to happen is the horse is going to get to a point to where everything is okay until it's not okay. And we've had like Phantom recently. Phantom was a pretty good handful, and there's another kind of part to that we're going to talk about in a minute. Phantom is a good horse. I like his mind, and we were starting him under saddle. He never bucked the first time I put the pad on. He never bucked the first time I put the saddle on. A little bit of trouble bridling, but none of that. And we got to a point with him, and I've talked about with him, he is okay with something before he's good at it. And we had to just keep putting pressure on him until we found where does his attention on us so we can train. If I get like Phantom, you saw me ground driving him, working him on the line, all that kind of stuff. And he was paying attention to everything out there, not paying attention to me. And it wasn't until I put enough mental pressure on him to get him to pay attention to me that I knew we were going to be able to make progress. If I would have kept on proceeding with and kept on going and his attention be out somewhere else, then we were going to reach a point where it was everything was good until it wasn't good, and he was going to blow up or something like that. So I had to keep pushing that envelope. Now, the other side of that is you're working with your horse, working on some desensitizing, despooking stuff, and they're overreacting to everything. Well, that's the other end. No extreme either direction is good. If he's overreacting, if he's on that extreme, that's not good. You have to work on that. If he is so okay with it that he's not paying attention to what you're doing, the other extreme, that's just as not good. And you have to watch your horse to see where in that they are. And to progress a horse's training, they need to be somewhere in the middle. They need to be okay with what you're doing, but concerned enough that they're paying attention. I get some horses in the start that have been so desensitized, you can do practically anything with them. And I start saddling, bridling, and they've already had so much of that work done that they don't really care. And that's the ones that's going to hurt you. That's the most dangerous ones, because everything's going to be okay until it's not. And that's why the young horses, that my personal ones, when they're yearlings or early 2-year-olds, I let them be a horse. I don't really do a whole lot with them, because I want their mind in the right place, so that I have to challenge them enough that we can get done what we're wanting to get done. But they're also, their mind is broke enough that they're not over responding to everything that we do. So much has been done recently with just getting horses just totally despooked to the point where they're practically dead in the head. And that creates problems. That's going to give you an illusion of they're okay with all these things until they're not. And that's a problem. We got any questions so far?
Yeah, someone wants to know, do you really have to lean forward while the horse urinates?
Do you really have to lean forward while the horse urinates? And what she's talking about is kind of getting the weight off the back end. The kidneys and the bladder is up here. I don't really know if that's a yes or no answer, but my answer would be, if it would help the horse, why not? It's not like it's definitely not going to hurt the horse. So my answer would be, why not? Whether it actually really helps, I don't know. But I'm going to do it anyways, just because it ain't going to hurt and it might help. Any more questions? Okay. So let's go over here and get this log. This is something that I've worked with this horse a good bit, and she's good at it, but she's almost good at it to the point where she ignores it too much. While I'm getting this rope, gathering it up, watch her, watch her ears, watch her expression, watch what she does. That ear is coming back. That's what I want. I don't always get that. A lot of times I'm doing this, and her ears are just all over the place. Yeah, you can read me the question. How do you get a horse used to fly spray? So I've actually got a video specifically on that. And basically what I do is I just put water in a spray bottle and I just spray them several times a day until they're just okay with it. There's not really a magic answer to it other than just doing it over and over. So now we walked off with this horse, with the dragging the board, and her ears are back paying attention. That's really what I want, but I don't always get that with her. Now she's looking at the board. That's good. That's what I want to see. If you're working with your horse and you're not getting her paying attention to what you're doing, if she's not looking at it, if they're just ignoring it, acting like it's not there, that's a sign of a problem just as much as if the horse just totally lost it and ran off the other direction. Ignoring it is just as bad. Okay, you got a question? When I watch the young horses in the pasture, are there things that I see that tell me where their minds are at? Yes, definitely so. And usually, if you think about it from the standpoint of when they're getting bored, they're going to get in trouble. And if I see a young horse and he's doing stuff that's kind of getting him in trouble, maybe he's picking at horses that you say, well, maybe he really ought to know better than to pick at that horse, or he's going off into something that he ought to know better, or he's just kind of pushing another horse around. That tells me that horse is mature to the point to where he needs to be challenged. Now, if you have a horse that is just totally non-reactive, let's overreact. Let's go to that point first. Totally overreactive about everything, no matter what happens, it wants to go off to a buddy. That's a sign that that horse needs a little bit of help. You need to go out and build confidence with that horse, or build that horse's confidence. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. None of these things are necessarily bad, but they're going to determine how you approach the horse. If one is getting in trouble when doing things that he really should know he shouldn't do, that wasn't very good. Bridle you up. Then I'm going to approach that horse different than a horse that acts like he's scared and reactive and gone to his buddies. So both of those could end up being really good horses, but you should approach the training different. The one that is scared and reactive, you need to build his confidence. You're probably going to end up with a better bond with that horse if you do it correctly. But that also could end up being the horse that's overreactive and bucking you off when it gets scared if you don't do it correctly. So that horse is actually can be kind of iffy to work with. But if you work with it, it can be a good horse. Now, if you have a horse that is getting in trouble because he's doing things he shouldn't be, that you think he should know better, that horse, you're going to have to challenge him to get his attention on you. That's going to be harder to bond with that horse, but that horse is confident. If you feed that confidence, that could be a really good horse too. But if you don't feed that confidence, that's going to end up being a horse that pushes back on you. If you're not giving him something to do, he's getting into stuff that he's not supposed to, that he shouldn't, because he's bored. Well, if you don't fix that boredom, then you're creating a different problem. So it's not really so much one is bad and one is good. It's just a matter of how you approach the training. Walk her around a little bit.
Couple more.
Okay, go ahead.
How do you move a horse from being sour?
How do I fix a horse from being sour? It's going to depend on why it's sour. If you could kind of elaborate a little bit more on what your horse is doing, I'll try to answer. But how it's sour is going to determine how I work it. You got another question, and we'll come back to that one.
Can you change behavior in a 20-year-old? He is hard and bridle
Can I change the behavior in a 20-year-old? He's hard in the bridle and he pulls on your hands, I think you meant. I'm not going to say you can't change it. You can make it better, but you're not going to make the problem go away. And that goes back to once a horse has something, a behavior instilled in him, that behavior, the longer you let that go, the more instilled it becomes. And doesn't mean you can't make it better, but it's less likely that you're going to make it go away. And that goes into why I won't take anything, or rarely. I do make a few exceptions once in a while. I rarely will take anything over 3 to start under saddle, because at that point in that 4-year-old year, that mind is going through some changes that is going to start to limit that horse's trainability. Doesn't mean it can't be trained, but you're limiting its trainability. And just like the 20-year-old, that can be helped, but once it's ingrained, it's ingrained. That starts in the 4-year-old year. They're a whole lot more moldable in the 3-year-old year. You have to be smart about how you work a 3-year-old. You can't overdo the body, but you have to be aware of the mind. And just like trying to fix it on that 20-year-old, it can be improved, but you're not going to totally fix it.
Okay, the one with the orange, the sour one,
Uh-huh.
he has been kicked by a disabled child. How did disabled child kick? 0 bucks, I don't know what it is. But sounds like he was kicked by a child. I don't know if that's what you come back with.
Yeah, I'm not sure what on the one, the sour horse. I'm not sure what you meant like that. The horse kicked the child. Is that what you're saying? I'm not really. Yeah, Pamela, I'm not really sure what you're saying there. If you could elaborate more. And that's a lot of. Did a blog article about this, and a lot of what we see is the symptoms of an issue. So when we see a horse do something, that's a symptom of an issue. And like when you say the horse is sour, that sour is a symptom of an issue. So I need a little bit of framework to go with how is the horse sour in what way, so that I can help the sourness. You never fix symptoms. You fix problems. And what most people see are the symptoms. So don't ever, when you see something that is a symptom of a problem, don't try to fix the symptom, fix the problem.
Someone would like to know who was the big horse in the wash rack Wednesday yesterday.
Okay, who was the big horse in the wash rack yesterday? That was Kimber, and I believe tomorrow's video is him. He is very big. In fact, at the time that I did that video, I had not measured him, but I have measured him since then, and he measured out just a tad under 17 hands. So he is a big dude, and he's not like 17 hand thoroughbred. He is like 17 hand patron, and he is actually a registered Tennessee walking horse, biggest one I've ever seen. And in the video, I believe it'll be out tomorrow, I'll be talking about what we're working with him. He's a broke horse, but there's still a few issues that we're working on, and a really nice horse. A little tall to be getting on and off of a lot on trail riding, but he's a really nice horse. I believe that video will be out tomorrow. There'll be more videos of him, and he is just a big teddy bear, really nice horse.
Okay, and let's come back. The child was kicked constantly on the horse. So now the horse really doesn't move.
Okay, so a disabled child, a child with a disability, was kicking constantly on the horse, I'm assuming from the saddle, and now the horse will not move. So basically, at some point, that horse has learned to just stand there and hunker down, and probably was blocking out the rider, not just the child, but the rider just blocking them out. And that's actually really similar to what I was talking about with over desensitizing a horse. Basically, that child just overly desensitized him so much to now he won't move. And that's going to take a lot of remedial work, because it takes 5 times longer to retrain a horse than it does to train a horse. So you're going to have to really back up and help that horse understand that squeezing means go forward. And there's several ways you can do that. You might put a rider on and lead the rider around, and the rider ride or not ride, maybe pony from another horse. There's several ways you can make that work. If he'll pony, that's probably the way I would work that. But that's basically some mental baggage that horse is going to have, and probably always will have, that is going to take some time to undo. I hate to hear that happened. I know that kind of stuff happens a lot, especially in lesson facilities where they do a whole lot of lessons with schooling horses, and usually the people that are giving the lessons are really good at giving lessons, but not so good at maintaining horses. And unfortunately, that stuff like that has created a lot. I know there was, it is closed now, but there was a therapeutic riding program not too far from me. And I would go in about once a month and talk to them about what their horses were doing, why they were doing it, and what to do different to make the horse last longer, because a lesson facility don't want to burn out their horses. So it's a shame that happened, but it's going to take a while to get it fixed. Got any more questions?
I think you've mentioned that you don't like leg wraps. Can you elaborate?
Okay, somebody said, I think you've mentioned that I don't like leg wraps. Can I elaborate? And it's not that I don't like leg wraps. I will wrap a horse. But if you think about, I don't want, let's see, let me back up a little bit. When a horse works, loping, running, trotting, walking, whatever, that concussion on that horse's bone actually strengthens the bone. That's why horses that are turned out in pasture are much stronger bones than horses that never get turned out. And that concussion helps to strengthen those horses' bones. So when I'm lightly working a horse, I talk about I'll have 50% rides, 70% rides, and 100% rides. And by that, I mean I'm going to ask for 50% effort, 70% effort, or 100% effort. If I'm only asking for 50% effort, I want the concussion of what I'm doing to strengthen those bones. So if I wrap the leg at that point, I'm eliminating what could be a benefit. Now, if I'm working the horse 70% or higher, yeah, I'll wrap legs. I've got leg wraps in there that I use, bell boots, splint boots. I'll wrap them because I don't want to create a problem. But the other part of that is if you always wrap, you're going to be more likely to have a problem. And just like I was talking about extremes, if you never wrap, you are more likely to have a problem. I prefer to be somewhere in the middle. I'm going to wrap when I feel like the horse needs it. Normally you'll not see horses' legs wrapped unless I'm working them pretty hard. I'll wrap Hank's legs, Bob's legs sometimes. If we're working hard physically, I want the concussion of what we're doing to strengthen those bones. Any more questions?
Yes. How often does your farrier come to your place?
How often does my farrier come to my place? It seems like too often. But the general schedule is about 6 weeks. But what I will do when we go to a show, I want to be showing about 2 or 3 weeks into that showing cycle. I don't want it to be right after they've had their feet done, and I don't want it to be right when we're coming up on needing their feet done. So what I will do when I know there's a pretty big or important show coming up, I will maybe have him come a week earlier or maybe a week later to kind of rotate, kind of move around when that 6 weeks is around the show. So generally it's 6 weeks. Now, you also have to be aware of how the horse's feet are growing. There's certain times of the year when the horse's feet grow a whole lot more than other times of the year. So you have to watch those and take that into account too. There's some times in certain times of the year where they're not growing very much, like Mouse out there that don't get much other than does a couple lessons. I might skip a trim on him once in a while during that time of the year. That was better than last time when I said it wasn't good when we stopped. I might skip a trim once in a while on him just because we're in the time of the year that they don't grow much. But generally, especially the ones that have shoes, it's 6 weeks, give or take a week, depending on how I'm trying to make the weeks fall out.
You might have answered this when you started the video, but it says, what specifically are you doing to help Lily Rose with her issues?
Okay, what specifically am I doing to help Lily Rose with her issues? I had a video of specifically that come out not too long ago. And what her issue is, she basically doesn't carry herself very well. And she's a pretty, how do you say it? Energy conservationist horse. She conserves her energy. When she's out, she don't do a whole lot. And to get her to build the muscles where they need to be, I've got to build those muscles. So what we're doing as I'm walking around, if you watch my feet, I'm lifting her back up with my spurs. And as I'm doing that, that's just like going to the gym and doing curls or bench presses or whatever. I am building these muscles up. And I'll probably just mainly walk today, but I'll do it at a walk, a trot, and a lope to get her back lifted up. That's really where the issue is. And then I'll just kind of relax and just let her walk a little bit. You see how her nose went out? She flattened out. She quit using those muscles. She got on her front end. I go really in depth on that video of her a while back. If you'll click on her playlist, that should be, I think, the last video of her. And so that's mainly, she just needs muscle. Really nice horse, really broke horse, really easy going horse. She just needs muscle. So that's really what I'm doing with her. And it looks like I'm just walking around on her, but as I'm walking around, we're basically doing gym work, exercise. You got any more?
Yes. In past videos, you
Okay, in past videos, I've talked about I don't do a whole lot of lunging before every ride, and I basically limit the amount of lunging that I do in general. And how does that relate to what we're talking about today? Yeah, that is very true. What I want to be able to get a horse out the pasture, out the stall, wherever. That was better. And I want to be able to saddle that horse, get on him, and ride off, and that horse be good. That I have his mind, I have his body. There's no, just like you saw her when I got on her today, there's no prancing going forward. There's no really much of anything to get the horse to go to work. And what happens if you get the horse out the stall or pasture or whatever and always lunge, then that horse is going to have that lunging on its mind. And it's a really hard habit to break, because you get the horse out here and you come out to wherever your riding area is, and that horse is thinking, lunge, go. Well, that horse is going to be in that mode, lunge, go. But if I teach the horse, come out here, I'm going to get on you, we're going to sit a minute, we're going to walk a few circles, and then we're going to kind of ease into something, then that's the mind that I want to have. That is a much safer horse, a much broker horse. I can jump on a horse and go show it cold. I've actually got horses that show best cold. And so that's why I don't lunge a whole lot. I will lunge enough to get done what I want to get done to move on. And once we're moved on, I do very little lunging, unless I need to go back and fix something. Usually lunging, I use lunging to get mind on me. You see me turn at the wall, we go to the wall, turn to me, go the other direction. I rarely ever lunge faster than a trot, and everything is geared towards getting their mind on me, and that's what I'm after. So what I'll do basically when I'm transitioning a horse from lunging to just getting straight on, and I've talked about this a little bit, but I haven't talked about the relationship of the two. I'll come out and we'll just walk a couple of circles. You actually saw me do a little, I think you saw me do a little bit of that with her. Just walk a couple circles, mind on me. And that's really all I'm after. To me, that's where the value of lunging is. If you have to lunge your horse to get energy out of the horse, there's something missing there. You're missing the mental connection that it's going to reflect in other ways later. I want to take just a minute, and some of you probably already know, some of you might not know. I've got a Patreon page, and I want to thank the Patreon supporters. I've got, I think, somewhere around, I don't know, 200 or so right now, and I want to thank you for supporting me on Patreon. I've actually just started 2 more tiers that is going to have some new rewards. One of the tiers I don't have totally set up yet. I haven't said what that reward for that tier is going to be, but I'm working on something that's going to be pretty exciting. So I want to thank all my Patreon supporters, and if I also have virtual video lessons on my website, helpwithmyhorse.com. If you have an issue with your horse and you want to do a video lesson, it's easy to do. Basically, you just go there, go through the checkout process with the video lesson, record yourself riding, and send me the video. I'll voice over and send it back. I do a few of those, and they actually go pretty good. So, you got any more questions?
Yeah. Should I be concerned?
Campo and Mouse. They have been fighting over Bug. Campo has been the kind of dominant horse out there, and Bug is over there, his girlfriend. And Mouse has taken her away, so they still haven't quite worked that out. So what's your question?
Should I be concerned if a horse trainer says he will send videos but gives me a lot of excuses as to why he can't send a video? Should I be concerned for my horse?
Not necessarily. Yeah, if I send my horse to a trainer and the trainer says he's going to send videos and he keeps giving excuses, should I be concerned? Not necessarily. I know when I first started doing videos, really wasn't set up for it, and it was outside of my routine, and so there was quite a few horses I didn't send videos or post videos because it was just outside of my routine. So no, it's not necessarily an issue. You might, if it's close, you might just pop in and just put your eyes on your horse, or ask him to send a picture of your horse. That's easy to do. He can snap a picture with a cell phone and text it to you. So, I mean, there could be something going on there, but I wouldn't be overly concerned, especially if it's a reputable trainer that has had good results in the past. So,
At what age do I need to start a young horse with someone on their back?
at what age do I need to start a young horse with someone on their back? So that's a question that gets asked a lot. And my answer is always the same, and it's going to be when that horse's mind tells you he needs it. And you've got the physical development of the horse, but you also have the mental development of the horse. And at some point, that young horse is going to start acting like transitioning. So it's not a foal anymore. It's not right there locked on mama. It's challenging its boundaries. And when that horse starts challenging his boundaries or acting like he's needing help, support, like we was talking about, the horse is just afraid of everything. When that horse is in that phase, that's when I'm going to start them. That is typically 2 to 3 years old, and because their mind needs it. Now, you still have to be aware of the development of their body. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to saddle them up, put a rider on her, and go for a 4-hour trail ride or lope them for 30 minutes. That doesn't mean that. You got to be smart about how you do it. But it does mean that I'm going to start giving the horse's mind what it needs at that point. It's kind of like having a 15-year-old child that's growing up and not helping it with any life advice or life support, not teaching it how to be an adult. It's the same thing. And to me, if you having a 15-year-old child that you're basically just throwing out to the world and not helping develop into a responsible adult, to me, that's neglect to that child. You do that to your horse, to me, that's neglect to the horse. And I know that's a real contradictory thing. And it's contradictory to the people that think about physical development and don't put enough thought into the mental development. That mental development is, I think, just as much or more important than the physical development. So the answer to that question is when that horse tells he needs it.
How hard is it to restrain from correcting people you don't know when you are at a show or just out and about?
How hard is it to restrain from correcting people at a show or when I'm just out that I don't know? Actually, it's not very hard at all. Just kind of life in general, people don't want to be given advice that they didn't ask for. And if I'm at a show or out and about and somebody's got something going on with their horse, unless they ask for help, I don't have a problem not giving it. And it doesn't mean that I don't care. But if the person isn't open to the advice, you're just creating a bad situation, and that person will probably never come to you in the future for help. So to me, that's really not that hard. Now, if I'm at a show and it's getting to the point of abuse or something that elevates to the welfare of the horse, all shows have rules about horse welfare. If it elevates to that, then I'm going to go report it to the show office, which is what everybody should do. I'm not going to go to that person. Going to that person is just asking for a problem. So to me, giving advice at a show is, or not giving advice is really not that hard. If I keep my mouth shut and maybe just speak, say, hey, how you doing? Introduce myself and walk away, then that person is going to be more susceptible to hear my advice later. So that's how I handle that. If it advances to something that's detrimental to the welfare of the horse, I'm not going to go to the person. I'm going to go to the show management, because all shows have welfare rules. And I see, in fact, I had a message this morning about people coming up with problems and either blowing them out of proportion or creating problems that don't exist. So I'm not going to say that a situation like a deadened tail, this is what we were talking about this morning. I'm not going to say a situation like a deadened tail doesn't exist. It does. There are a few out there. But the thing about that is all horse organizations, especially if you've been involved in the management of any like state organizations or larger ones, they are very aware of welfare of the horses, because they know all it takes is the one person going to the right person and they can have their whole organization shut down. So every show organization is very aware of the welfare of the horses. And something like a deadened tail, it happens. But if you're at a show and you see a horse with a deadened tail, that is most likely a horse, an older horse from years ago when deadened tails were more likely. Not going to say they're not still out there. They are. But people who want to speak up for the welfare of the horse really should be better in tune as to the crusades that they decide to take. There are things out there that would be much better addressed than a problem like a deadened tail that was really a problem 20 years ago. So if, I don't know, I just kind of went off on a tangent there. But anyways, yeah, give me another question. That's enough of that.
All right. Can you elaborate? Use this card to lift the horse's back.
Okay. Elaborate on use of spur to lift the back. Do I use one leg or both legs? And how do you keep a horse from getting dull to the spur? So basically, just like anything else, I'm only going to be as hard as I have to be, as hard as necessary, but no harder than I have to be. So as I'm walking her around, you watch, I've got spur touching her just about every stride, but I'm not squeezing hard. I'm just lifting, and I am mostly using both legs. Now right here, she kind of overbent, went that way. I'm using more right leg. Now I add left leg back. So if long as you're using the amount of pressure needed to get the result you want, but not more pressure than what is necessary, you will never dull a horse's sides to spur. What will dull a horse's sides to spur is when you start using a lot of spur when all you needed was a little bit of calf. I could take my spurs off of this horse and I can get the same thing done, but I will have to work a little harder at it because I'll have to put a little bit more pressure with my heel just to make it happen, just because I'm asking her to do something that's hard. So you will never get a horse dull to spur as long as you only use as much pressure that's necessary to get what you want. You got a fly on you? She's pretty susceptible to flies. Okay, another one.
How do you know what the best bit for your horse is?
How do you know what the best bit for your horse is? So I need to go back in these comments and reference some videos, because that is a very long answer. There's 7 different pressure points on a horse's head that the bit will affect. And every bit is going to affect those 7 pressure points in a little bit different way. So I'm going to use the bit that gives my horse the help that horse needs. And there's no dead rule of always ride this horse in this bit. I never ride a horse in any bit more than 3 rides in a row. And I'm always going to pick the bit to help the horse with what I'm working on to help the horse on that day. Today I have my Kelly Carry chicken choker on this horse, pretty tall port. That helps with lifting the back. I've talked about that in a video. If you're sitting at a desktop computer, you might open another tab and Google Kelly Carry chicken choker. That's what bit I have, because that's the bit that helps this horse with what she needs. So there's no dead set, use this bit, use that bit. This bit's magic. None of this. None of that is true. Now, a certain bit might be what you needed for that horse, so it kind of feels magical, but that doesn't mean that that bit is that magical on every horse.
Here's a comment about the asking for advice about the show. You might want to give your opinion. Someone said, I wouldn't ask for advice from a pro at a show. That's their job, and I need to pay accordingly, unless they're my trainer, unless they offer.
Okay, so somebody commented that she went and asked a professional, I assume it was a she, I'm just guessing, I don't know, a professional at a show for advice, and she feels like the professional needs to be compensated accordingly. That's what they do for a living. And that's true, and I really appreciate you thinking of it that way. That is what that professional does. And the other side of that is, most trainers at a show, if you have just a simple question and you're not taking time away from their students or their horses at the show, they don't mind answering your question. They really, most trainers who show, kind of categorize that. Most trainers that show are really after the welfare of the horses and the welfare of the rider. They're after that relationship. There's some special bonds about that relationship I've talked about in the past. They're after that relationship, and they want to see every rider do good. That's like me showing in the open. I'll be out in the warm-up pen with my competition, and we're picking each other's brain. What do you think about this? What would you do about that? I mean, we genuinely want everybody to do good. We want to win, but we genuinely want everybody to do good. I want to beat my competition because I beat my competition, not because my competition messed up. And it's probably not that way in every part of the show world. I know there are show worlds that's exactly the opposite. But in most of the ranch stuff, the cow stuff, I have found that a cow will humble anybody. And pretty much any show any event that involves a cow, those people are pretty easy going, because it's almost like karma. If you kind of act like you've got your nose stuck up over here, like you know everything, that cow's going to bring you back to earth. So that's kind of how we all associate with each other at the shows that I go to, and it's really very enjoyable. And like our youth riders, I've got Alex that I haul now. She's 9, I believe. All the kids, they're competing against each other, but they'll go off and they'll play together, and then they come back and they compete and they want to win. And teaching that is so valuable to kids. You want to be competitive, but your competitiveness is you getting better, not knocking the other person down.
Okay, this is probably the last one because we're right at 50 minutes. Who taught you what you know about horses?
Who taught me what I know about horses? So the first person that I really rode with regular was Floyd James, and he was a roping trainer. He trained roping horses. He started a lot of horses, and a lot of the basic knowledge that I have came from him. I don't know if he even worked horses anymore. He's out in Texas, last I heard. We used to be close. And he's who really I got my foundation from. Now, everything else after that is basically whoever I could ask questions, just like I said a minute ago. Whoever I could go ride with, ask questions. Most, I know, I think probably a lot of open riders, a lot of what I know came from the warm-up pen at shows, practicing and riding with other trainers. Rob Huddleston is a really good friend of mine, and I've learned a lot from him. And there's been quite a few, and probably some I should mention by name also. But if I start mentioning everybody, I'm probably going to run out of time. There's been a lot, and there are a lot of good trainers all over the country, but they're hard to find because you see a lot of publicity on the really big name trainers, the ones that have um, just the good publicity. And there are a lot of really good trainers all over the country. And I've just been lucky enough that my YouTube and Facebook has kind of taken off. That's really the only reason anybody knows about me. Uh, that's what kind of sets me apart. Just you having the avenue to find out about me. There's good trainers all over. And so really, I've never worked full time for a trainer. I had another job and a family, and that didn't work out for me. So I just went and rode with everybody that would take me, and learned everything I could. So I think we're going to end it right there. I thank everybody for joining me for this live training video. I hope that you got something out of the pressure, mental pressure versus physical pressure. And it's a really important aspect that I think a lot of people don't grasp. This is Lily Rose. She's actually going to be going home on Monday. So this will probably be the last video that you'll see of her. Until next time, thank you for watching.